The night before my wedding, Liam Hale called to tell me it was off, worried he was overworked. I decided to go to our engagement apartment and make rice porridge for him to have when he got off work. But as soon as I reached the door, I heard raucous laughter and chatter coming from inside. Someone yelled teasingly, "Dude, you're taking this way too far, swapping out the bride like that. Aren't you scared your fiancé will find out and throw a fit? Is this all because Olivia wanted a wedding with you?" Liam replied casually, "It's not about Olivia. She's been filling in for her at all my family gatherings anyway. Your girl's swamped with work. I am doing this for her own good." I left quietly, pretending I hadn't heard a thing. The next day, I posted a photo of my red Chinese marriage license with someone else on Instagram. Liam showed up at my door, frantic. "Emma, that marriage license is fake, right?" I smiled brightly and handed him a wedding invitation to mine and Ethan's ceremony. 1. Liam was right. Emma Carter, was busy with work, but I'd spent 2 full months planning our wedding. I'd handled every single detail myself. I never imagined that in the end, the bride wouldn't be me. My whole body trembled, and I could barely stand. The clink of glasses echoed from inside the apartment. Someone cheered. "Honestly, Liam, back when you and Olivia were together, we all thought you'd end up marrying each other." Liam fell silent for a long moment, his voice tinged with regret. "You know how busy I am. Surgeries run for hours at all hours of the day. Olivia's too delicate. She couldn't handle that kind of life." Noticing his mood, the others quickly changed the subject with a joke. "But Emma's really good to you, even with her own busy schedule. She makes you rice porridge and brings you meals, just to make sure you don't skip a single one, right? I've never seen a fiancé this thoughtful. You better make it up to her big time after this." Liam's mood visibly lifted. "Emma's definitely a keeper. She'd make a great wife, and marrying me won't be a step down for her. Once this wedding's over, I'll take 2 days off and take her on a honeymoon. That'll make up for not giving her a proper ceremony." Someone looked awkward. "You can't keep this a secret forever. What if Emma finds out?" Liam's face hardened. "I've already got an excuse lined up. She'll never find out. And all of you keep your mouths shut. If I find out anyone told her, don't expect me to call you a friend anymore." The others quickly reassured him. "Don't worry, our lips are sealed." Cheers to Liam's last night as a single man. The sound of toasting and laughter filled the room again as I stood outside, my hands and feet numb. Liam was the chief of internal medicine, young and accomplished, often performing surgeries that lasted for hours on end. I'd stayed up countless nights waiting for him, and even for our wedding. He'd used his busy surgery schedule as an excuse to stay out of the planning. I'd done everything by myself, from start to finish, so he'd known exactly how miserable it was to wait for him until 2 in the morning. But the person he'd felt sorry for had never been me. 2. I forced myself to breathe normally until I walked out of the apartment complex, and then the tears finally came flooding out, a huge weight lifting off my chest. Liam and I had met through a blind date. He'd made director at such a young age that he had no business being on blind dates, but he'd never shown much interest in dating until my aunt introduced us. Suddenly, Liam dropped his cold attitude toward romance and pursued me relentlessly, showering me with attention. I'd always thought we were perfectly matched. I loved the way his eyes lit up when he talked about his work. I respected the fact that he got so caught up in his job that he forgot about everything else. On our 1-year anniversary, I'd cooked a huge dinner, but Liam got called in for an emergency surgery at the last minute. I waited for him until 2 in the morning. The next day, Liam showed up with dark circles under his eyes and spent the entire day with me. I'd been completely overwhelmed with gratitude. And now, I'd spent every spare minute planning our wedding, and I couldn't even get a single word of comfort or concern from him. Liam's phone call came through, his voice tired. "Emma, I have no idea when this surgery will end. I'm just gonna crash here tonight. Once things calm down in a couple days, I'll take you to the beach for a vacation." I swallowed the lump in my throat and replied, "Okay." My tone was flat, and Liam hesitated for a second. Normally, if he'd told me he was taking me to the beach, I would have been grinning from ear to ear, but now I just gave him a lukewarm response. Liam noticed something was off, but he didn't think much of it. He hung up quickly. Normally, I would have just felt bad that he was too busy to talk longer. But now, our wedding had a different bride. The man chatting with his friends inside the apartment felt like a complete stranger. It was like I was meeting my fiancé for the first time. When we'd first met, Liam had been the perfect partner, serious about his work, gentle and loyal to me. I wondered how many of those countless nights I'd spent waiting for him had actually been lies he'd told to spend time with someone else. The Chinese double happiness wedding decal on the door blurred in front of my eyes, as if mocking me for pouring my heart into a wedding that was never meant to be mine. A friend request popped up on my phone from a girl. I accepted it. 3. My gut told me this was the Olivia they'd been talking about, the woman who was about to marry my fiancé. Sure enough, right after I accepted, she posted a photo on Instagram. Caption: "My biggest wish is to walk down the aisle with you." In the photo, Olivia was snuggled up against Liam, a huge smile on her face, while Liam had his arm around her, looking down at her with adoration. My mind went completely blank. My phone slipped out of my hand and hit the floor with a crack. The lock screen a photo of Liam and Mesplit right down the middle. I glanced at the comments, and every single one was congratulating them on finally getting together. My hand shook as I scrolled down her feed. In every post, I saw a reflection of myself, sitting alone at night waiting for Liam. On our 1-year anniversary, when I'd been sitting alone at the dinner table, Olivia's Instagram showed Liam gently putting a delicate necklace around her neck, a look of pure happiness on her face. On my birthday, when I'd waited outside the movie theater until the credits rolled, Liam had been curled up on a couch with Olivia, whispering sweet nothings in her ear. And when Liam had bailed on Olivia last minute for a surgery, he bought her 999 red roses, a traditional Chinese symbol of eternal love, just to make it up to her. So Liam could be that romantic. I just hadn't been the recipient. But somewhere along the way, things had changed. When I had a 102-degree fever and called Liam from home, all I'd gotten was an impatient scolding. He'd said, "You're a grown woman. Can't you take care of yourself? How am I supposed to trust you to be a good wife? I'm busy. Don't distract me with trivial things like this." That had felt like a bucket of ice water poured over my burning head. I'd actually wondered if I'd been bothering him. At his family reunion, I'd rearranged my entire work schedule to go, but Liam had told me to rest because he was worried I was too tired. I'd thought it was sweet. Now I knew he'd just had Olivia take my place. Looking back, every time I'd met his mom, she'd been cold and distant. She'd been comparing me to Olivia this whole time. I'd been stupid enough to think I just wasn't good enough, but now I saw the truth. Liam's patience was only ever for the people he actually cared about. I couldn't even remember when his voice on the phone had turned cold and distant. I'd never suspected a thing. Was it because his serious, focused side at work had left such a strong impression on me? Or was it because the tired, gentle smile he'd given me when he'd taken me shopping to relax had felt so real? I sat on the couch all night, until sunlight streamed through the window and hit the table. I rubbed my numb legs and stood up to leave. To save time, I'd chosen a wedding venue close to our apartment. It was only a 20-minute walk away. A crowd had already gathered outside the hotel, all friends of Liam and Olivia. By the looks of it, soon a wedding car pulled up, covered in bright red wedding decorations. Liam carried Olivia out of the car, and cheers erupted around them, everyone congratulating the happy couple. Olivia blushed and hid her face in Liam's chest. They stared into each other's eyes, and Liam's gaze was full of tenderness. "You two were the envy of the entire class in college. It's so good to see you finally get your happy ending." Right. Who could forget how Liam gave up that prestigious medical competition spot just to see Olivia off at the airport when she studied abroad? We were all so jealous. Of course, our department's beauty is too stunning for anyone to resist. The laughter and cheers grew louder and louder, and I stood in the corner like a fool, watching someone else's happiness unfold. So the person Liam had been carrying in his heart all these years was his college sweetheart. No wonder he'd looked at her like she was the most precious thing in the world. But if you couldn't get over her, why did you come into my life? I'd fallen right into the trap you'd woven, completely unaware. At least it wasn't too late. 4. I stood in the shadow of the hotel's columns, watching the perfect couple walk hand in hand, surrounded by their friends' blessings. toward the wedding hall that was supposed to be mine. Liam had a smile on his face that I'd never seen before, bright, relaxed, genuine. He held Olivia carefully, as if she were the most fragile thing in the world. My heart felt like it was being squeezed in an iron fist. A dull ache spreading through every part of my body. That was real love, nothing like the fake, convenient relationship he'd had with me. I, his actual fiancée, had just been a tool for him to appease his parents and check the get married box on his life to-do list. The MC's enthusiastic voice boomed through the microphone, telling the beautiful story of how the newlyweds had met and fallen in love. Every single detail he mentioned had been stolen from my relationship with Liam, twisted into a love story between him and Olivia. How ironic. I didn't stay to listen any longer. I turned and walked away from the hotel. The sun was bright, but I couldn't feel any warmth. Even the brightest sun couldn't reach the cold, dark place in my heart. I wandered aimlessly until I found myself standing in front of the county clerk's marriage bureau. Liam and I had planned to come here right after the wedding to get our marriage license. To save time, now I stood alone in the busy lobby, feeling like an unwelcome warning sign. A clear, warm voice sounded behind me. "Emma, are you okay?" The voice was familiar, yet distant. I slowly turned around. Ethan's face came into view. I stared at him in shock. "Ethan, is that you?" Ethan's worried expression softened into a smile when I spoke. He was my senior from college, and the most persistent and honest person who'd ever pursued me. I'd liked him back, but right after graduation, I'd thrown myself into my career in the media industry. I'd been young and reckless, and I'd worked my way up from nothing, taking every hard knock in stride. But I'd never had time for dating, and things between Ethan and I had just fizzled out. Later, I'd heard from friends that he'd moved abroad, and now here we were, both at the age where people were getting married. I snapped out of my daze and smiled at him, glancing curiously behind him. "Long time no see. Ethan, are you here to get married? Where's your fiancé?" Ethan looked taken aback for a second, then laughed ruefully. "I heard you were getting married. I came to see you." I froze. I felt my cheeks burn with embarrassment, being caught in this state by someone who'd once liked me. Before I could say anything, Ethan continued, "I saw you at the hotel earlier, and you looked terrible. I followed you here. Since we're both here, would you like to get married to me instead?" I thought I'd misheard him. I looked up at him uncertainly, and all I saw in his eyes was complete sincerity. My phone rang. The screen showed Liam's name. I stared at it for a moment, then pressed decline. Then I didn't hesitate anymore. Adults make decisions in the blink of an eye. I looked Ethan straight in the eye and said firmly, "Yes." 5. When we walked out of the county clerk's marriage bureau, I was holding a red Chinese marriage license in my hand. The time and place were exactly what Liam and I had agreed on. Only the person next to me was different. Ethan offered to drive me home, but I shook my head. He didn't push it. He just told me gently that our wedding would be in 10 days. I went back to the engagement apartment that Liam and I were supposed to live in after the wedding. I'd been moving my things in little by little over the past few months in preparation. I stared at the Chinese double happiness wedding decal I'd put on the door myself, now looking utterly ridiculous. I took a deep breath, ripped it off violently, crumpled it up, and threw it in the trash. I started packing all my things calmly. Clothes, books, makeup, and all the little decorations I'd carefully picked out for our home. Every time I took something that was mine, my heart grew a little colder. I didn't cry at all during the process, but my fingertips turned white from gripping the boxes so hard. When I was done, I called a moving company and had most of my things shipped directly to the small apartment I'd bought before meeting Liam. Finally, I looked around the room that had once held all my hopes and dreams. Now nothing but a hollow, absurd place. I pulled out my phone and blocked Liam on every single platform. Clean break. No loose ends. Liam contacted me again the next day. He used a random number. As soon as I answered, I heard his angry voice. I'd never hung up on him before. Hanging up on him when I'd gotten my marriage license had been the first time. Liam had probably been too busy with Olivia to notice how unusual that was. It wasn't until the next day that he'd remembered to yell at me. "Emma Carter, how dare you hang up on me and block my number? Are you throwing a fit just because we didn't have the wedding yesterday?" You're a grown woman. Stop being so immature and playing hide and seek. Humph. I was actually planning to take you to get our marriage license today. But now I think I'll just forget it. Liam scoffed, waiting for me to beg him for forgiveness and beg him to take me to get the license. After all, I'd been looking forward to that day for so long. I didn't give him what he wanted. I just said calmly, Liam, we're done. There was dead silence on the other end of the line. All I could hear was his heavy breathing. Emma, I don't have time for your little games. I'm waiting here for half an hour. If you don't show up, you'll never get another chance. And don't come crying to me later. He hung up before I could say anything else. I sighed quietly. I decided to go meet him in person anyway. To return his things. 6. I arrived about 20 minutes later. Liam had been waiting impatiently, but when he saw me, a mocking smile spread across his face. I opened my mouth to speak, but someone cut me off. Liam, is this your fiancé? Olivia walked up and linked her arm through Liam's. A teasing smile on her face. I told you, Liam. You're too amazing for her to let go. Look how fast she ran over here. Liam had really wasted no time in parading his new girlfriend around. Watching them act like no one else was there made a bitter taste rise in my throat. I took a deep breath and pushed my feelings aside. I have something to tell you. Say it here. Olivia's not an outsider. Liam's gaze never left Olivia, full of adoration. Watching the man who'd been my fiancé just yesterday look at another woman like that still hurt. I clenched my fists, letting go of the last bit of hope I'd had. I pulled out the engagement ring that Liam had gotten down on one knee to put on my finger and held it out to him without hesitation. This is your engagement ring. I hope we never see each other again. Liam's eyes finally snapped to me. That's when he noticed that my ring finger was bare. The ring I'd never taken off since the day we got engaged was gone. Liam frowned, his voice impatient. What kind of game are you playing now? Emma, I'm not playing games. Liam, we're done. My arm was starting to ache from holding out the ring. But he didn't take it. Liam looked genuinely panicked for a second when he saw how serious I was. But he was too proud to apologize. Instead, he snapped angrily. Emma, I gave you a chance. Don't think I can't live without you. He glanced dismissively at the ring in my hand. If we're done, then this is just garbage. Throw it away. Then he pulled Olivia closer and walked away without a second glance. I lowered my stiff arm. The ring was still sitting quietly in its box. I didn't hesitate. I walked over to the trash can 2 steps away and threw it in. Over the next few days, I threw myself into work. I had several important projects that needed my full attention. I was in the middle of a meeting when my phone lit up. A message from Olivia popped up on my screen. I opened it. Thanks for giving Liam to me. Oh. And the wedding bed was really comfortable that night. Attached was a photo of Liam and Olivia in bed together, naked, lying on the wedding bed I'd carefully prepared. My heart clenched so hard I could barely breathe. I called an end to the meeting. When everyone had left, I doubled over and retched. Tears streamed down my face. I didn't care how pathetic I looked as I collapsed into my chair. I'd given him my whole heart, and he'd trampled it into the ground. My phone vibrated again, and more photos came through. Pictures of them at the beach, and then a voice message. Liam's voice. I'm sorry you had to go through this. Baby, don't worry. Even if I married someone else, you're still the one I love. If Emma's throwing a fit, just let her cool off. She'll come crawling back to apologize. His calm words felt like a hurricane tearing through my already broken soul. So the happiness I'd dreamed of was just something Olivia couldn't be bothered to put up with. My hands shook as I smoothed out my crumpled blazer. I composed myself and called my assistant back in to continue the meeting. I worked until late that night. When I walked out of the office, Ethan was waiting for me outside. When he saw me, he hurried over, took my bag from me, and held up a thermos. I didn't want to bother you while you were working. You must be starving. I made you some soup. Drink it while it's hot. I got in the car, and Ethan opened the thermos for me. The delicious aroma made my stomach growl. I realized I hadn't eaten anything all day. The warm soup filled my mouth. I suddenly remembered all the times I'd made soup for Liam after his surgeries, putting it in a thermos and bringing it to his doctor's lounge, waiting for him to finish so he could have it hot. I'd never noticed the impatience and boredom in his eyes. No one had ever brought me warm soup after a long day at work before. So this is what it tastes like. My eyes filled with tears. As if from the steam, Ethan took the thermos from me and turned me to face him. Emma, I know you've been busy, so I didn't want to bother you with anything else. But our wedding is the day after tomorrow. I need you to send out the invitations. I suddenly remembered that Ethan had mentioned the wedding 10 days from when we'd gotten married. I'd thought he'd just said it to comfort me. I never imagined he'd actually planned everything by himself. I'm so sorry I didn't help with anything. Ethan reached out and ruffled my hair gently. Don't be sorry. This is my job. A wedding shouldn't be one person's job. It should be something two people do together. Over the next 2 days, I put all my work on hold and focused on preparing for our wedding. The second I posted the invitation on Instagram, my phone rang with an unknown number. 7. It was Liam. His voice was mocking and casual. Emma Carter, you'll do anything to get my attention, won't you? Who'd you Photoshop that marriage license with? I smiled faintly. You're welcome to come to my wedding. My husband and I would love to see you. Emma, stop being ridiculous. You don't have a husband. I know you're still mad I didn't give you a wedding. I promise, once things calm down, I'll spend more time with you. Okay, just delete that post before people start laughing at you. Before I could reply, the wedding planner called me over to confirm the final details. Ms. Carter, we just need to go over a few small details for the wedding. I told her I'd be right there. Then turned back to the phone. I have to go. Goodbye. I hung up before he could say anything else and went to finalize the plans. Ethan had arranged everything. The venue, the theme, the decorations. All I had to do was confirm the small details. The wedding was going to be outdoors, on the lawn of a beautiful estate. The grass was covered in lisianthus, my favorite flower, and even the refreshments were from my favorite bakery. It was late by the time I finished trying on my wedding dress. Ethan drove me home and then left. As soon as I turned around, I saw Liam hurrying toward me, looking disheveled. He had dark circles under his eyes, making him look pale and exhausted. He was still wearing the jacket he'd had on for his vacation. He'd obviously come straight from the airport. Emma, who is he? That marriage license is fake, right? I smiled politely at him. Mr. Hale, I almost forgot to give you your invitation. I pulled the last wedding invitation out of my bag and handed it to him. Liam stared at the red card, his hands shaking as he took it. When he read what was on it, he stumbled back a step. He stared at me in disbelief. Why, you've always wanted to marry me. I couldn't help but laugh. You mean marry the man who had a wedding with another woman behind my back? Liam froze. What are you talking about? I was there. I watched you marry Olivia. Panic flashed across Liam's face. Emma, it was just a formality. You're the one I was actually going to marry. I couldn't believe he was still lying to me. I laughed until tears came to my eyes. Oh, right. The marriage you gave me because you didn't want to make poor Olivia suffer. Liam frowned, his voice angry. Did someone tell you something? Liam, I was outside the engagement apartment the night before the wedding. I heard everything you said. Liam's shoulders slumped, and he looked like he was about to collapse. He mumbled, that's not what happened. Emma, I was drunk that night. I didn't mean any of it. I promise. If you divorce him right now, I'll marry you immediately. Okay. I just looked at him calmly, like he was an old toy I no longer wanted. When he saw the coldness in my eyes, Liam finally pulled himself together and went back to his usual arrogant self. Fine, fine. I know you better than anyone. You just married some random guy to make me jealous, right? Well, I hope you don't regret it. 8. 2 days later, the wedding went ahead as planned. Even though we'd only had 10 days to prepare, every single detail showed how much care Ethan had put into it. As the wedding began, I felt surprisingly calm. I wore a beautiful white wedding dress and walked down the aisle on Ethan's arm, toward a wedding that was completely and utterly mine. Halfway through the ceremony, Liam showed up. He looked terrible. The dark circles under his eyes were worse than ever. Like he hadn't slept in days. He had stubble on his chin, and the calm, composed air of the elite doctor was completely gone. Emma, look, I found our engagement ring. I dug it out of the trash after you threw it away. Please, just give me one more chance, I said flatly. Liam, anything that comes out of the trash is dirty. I don't want it. He looked like all the strength had been drained out of him. He stared at me desperately, his voice breaking. Emma, I'm sorry, I really am. It was Olivia. She kept clinging to me. I was just being stupid. I love you. Please give me another chance. Let's start over. Okay, Emma. He lunged forward, trying to grab my hand, but Ethan stepped in front of me and blocked him. Mr. Hale, please show some respect. Ethan's voice was cold. Respect. Liam laughed bitterly, his eyes red with anger and tears. Emma, how can our years together mean less than some stranger you met a few days ago? You'd rather marry him than me. His voice was loud, and all the guests turned to look at us, whispering among themselves. My anger finally boiled over at his audacity. I stepped forward and stared him straight in the eye, my voice quiet but clear enough for everyone to hear. Liam, do I need to remind you what happened in our engagement apartment the night you married Olivia? With every word I said, Liam's face grew paler. I said it's dirty. If you're not here to wish me well, then please leave. Liam stood frozen in place, the light in his eyes slowly fading away. After the wedding, I went back to my busy work life. Only this time, no matter how late I worked, there was always a warm bowl of soup and a light on waiting for me. 6 months later, Ethan took me to my prenatal checkup. While he was getting the test results, I saw Liam standing nearby. He saw me too. The bright, hopeful look in his eyes died the second he saw my hand resting on my pregnant belly. Liam no longer looked like the proud, aloof doctor he'd once been. He looked tired and worn out. I remembered how he'd always been perfectly put together, no matter how busy he was. Emma, long time no see. How are you? Before I could reply, a voice cut in. Honey, what are you doing? I told you to get me water. Olivia walked over, her belly even bigger than mine, and snuggled up against Liam. She looked at me with obvious hostility. Oh, you're here for a checkup too. Where's your husband? Did he leave you alone? Liam finally seemed to notice that I was by myself. He frowned, his voice sharp with annoyance. That's how he takes care of you. How could he leave you alone at a prenatal checkup? Olivia's face turned bright red with anger. I smiled at them, not wanting to waste any more time on them. Just then, Ethan walked over with the test results and called out to me, "Baby." I nodded at them politely and walked over to Ethan. Behind me, I heard Olivia screaming, "Liam Hale, do you still have feelings for her? Don't be ridiculous. When did you become so jealous? You're embarrassing me. You're impossible." With that, Liam stormed off, leaving Olivia yelling after him. None of this affected me. The doctor said our baby was perfectly healthy. And Ethan squeezed my hand so tight I thought he might break it. He was so excited. A few months later, I was playing music for our baby bump when my phone rang. It was a friend we both knew from college. I wondered what it could be about, but I answered anyway. Emma. Are you okay? I said calmly. What's wrong? He hesitated for a long time before finally speaking. Emma, did you hear about Liam? He had an accident. He was in surgery, and he nicked an artery. The patient almost bled out. They saved him in the end. But Liam's career is over. My heart skipped a beat. Liam had always been famous for how precise and careful he was in surgery. There was no way he'd make a mistake that stupid. Emma, Liam's been miserable since he married Olivia. She controls every part of his life. Scared he'll cheat on her, she makes him spend every minute he's not at work with her. That's why he was so tired and messed up the surgery. He already divorced her. He's been regretting it this whole time. I cut him off. Is there anything else? Emma, if not, I'm hanging up. And don't call me again. What happens to Liam is none of my business. I hung up and blocked his number. I placed my hand gently on my belly, feeling the baby kick. A wave of warmth washed over me. I was just glad I'd seen Liam for who he really was before it was too late. 10. Ethan was always making me different kinds of delicious food, so I'd gained quite a bit of weight during my pregnancy. To stay healthy for the baby, I often went for walks after dinner. One day, as I was walking down my usual path, I saw Liam waiting for me. I turned around and started walking away. Emma, he called out. I sighed. He just wouldn't leave me alone. I slowly turned around and looked at him. Liam was wearing a wrinkled shirt. His hair was a mess. And he looked terrible. Emma. I'm sorry. I was wrong. I shouldn't have treated you like that. I regret it. I really do. His eyes were red. And he broke down crying, holding his head in his hands. There was no trace of the proud man he'd once been. Looking at him, I wondered, if the Liam I'd met had been like this, would I have ever fallen for him? He took a step toward me and opened his palm, revealing the engagement ring. His voice softened. I've kept this ring all this time. I look at it every time I think about you, Emma. I can't forget you. I was an idiot to let you go. Can we go back to the way things were? I couldn't help but laugh. Liam stared at me in shock. Liam. We're adults. We have to live with the choices we make. You don't miss me. You just miss having someone who did everything for you without complaining. Liam's face turned white. He shook his head desperately. That's not true, Emma. It's not. I ignored him and continued. You liked feeling superior, stepping on other people's hearts and dignity. You hurt me without a second thought just to get what you wanted. And now that you realize you made the wrong choice, you come crawling back to the idiot who gave you her whole heart. Is that it? Liam, life doesn't work that way. If I could go back, I'd run as far away from you as possible. You're nothing but bad luck. Liam stood there frozen, ashamed and embarrassed, unable to believe I'd said those things to him. I was about to say more when Ethan walked up behind me and called my name, smiling lovingly. I stopped talking. I spat on the ground in disgust, then linked my arm through Ethan's and walked away happily. I never saw Liam again after that. Whenever people talked about him, they just shook their heads sadly. When Liam had asked Olivia for a divorce, she'd fought him tooth and nail and taken every last penny he had. Liam had lost his wife, his child, and his brilliant career all because of his own stupid choices. I just listened to it like it was a story about someone I didn't know. A few months later, I gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. She was chubby and perfect. Ethan never left my side the entire time. He even cried, telling me how brave I was and how sorry he was that I'd had to go through so much pain. Baby, we're never having another one. That was too hard on you. The sun was shining brightly outside. In that moment, happiness felt real and tangible. From now on, I was going to work hard, love my family, and love myself. Hey there, could you rate this story in the comments? Use a scale of 1 to 10. Please, I am begging you. It really means a lot to me. And if you like this kind of content, don't forget to hit follow.